Member Espinosa,
Yay.
Member Moorhead,
Yes.
Member Hendricks,
Yes.
Member McIntosh,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Epiphany Joseph,
Yes.
Joseph,
Yes.
Member Michael Joseph,
No.
Member Leardom,
Yes.
Member Mercer, Member Mercer,
Yes.
Member O'Neill, yes. Member Springett,
Yes.
Member Wallington, Member Wells,
Yes.
Member Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 12 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Fox.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Point of order.
I'm just letting the board know. I'm just letting the board know I'm working and closing on the early voting sites. It's going to be 4 or 4:30. So making some calls to the different judges. Thank you.
Thank you. Point of order, Member Michael Joseph.
Is that the herb action is bizarre to be so close to it.
Member Joseph, Member Joseph, I said to you before, and I'll say it again on the record, that was an executive session, a matter in the executive session. It was supposed to be discussed in executive session. I'm going to report out to the public the conversation, well, not the conversation, but what was discussed, and we're going to move forward. You cannot discuss a legal matter in the open forum. Thank you.
Except if you...
Member Joseph, please.
I have to make a record as to what...
Member Joseph, that is not your responsibility. I am the chairman here. I'm the one that will report out the conversation or what took place in executive session. It's not a matter of debate. It's not a matter for debate. It's not a matter for debate.
Make a cut off if you don't know what the conversation or the motion was about. You just...
I want to report out that the board met in executive session. The board met to discuss a legal matter involving a former employee. That matter is being heard before going through a legal process. And until such time as that legal process has been completed, it isn't, we cannot speak to it because you don't want to harm the individual or any member. Also, the board discussed in the executive session a letter that we received, correspondence is received from Senator Alma Heiliger, Francis Heiliger, relative to having poll watchers during the early voting process. There was no decision, no votes taken in executive session. I have been guided to respond to the senator, which I'll do at the end of this meeting. Are there any motions that needs to be proffered out of executive session? Hearing none.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was trying to get there. Sorry. Motion.
Member Mercer?
Yes, motion. I move in light of the consideration we were doing on poll watchers that they be issued immediately for any candidates that wanted them before early voting or for any other time. I so move. They be signed immediately. I so move. Amendment.
Just a minute. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Member Epifani Joseph. Let me see if I can chronicle your motion. You are asking, your motion is to approve any poll watcher certificates.
Order of continue, just want to keep it up.
Oh, Jesus.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Member Mercer, so your motion is to issue certificates for any candidates that request certificates during early voting, is that it?
Requested it, period, and let it apply to early voting for the entire rest of the time as we're dealing with general election. I so move.
Okay. Okay, to,
Keeping in consideration the amount, you can't send 10.
okay, you can offer an amendment, Member Hendricks, but to issue a watcher certificate.
Can I?
Just give me one quick second, please.
All right, but you changed the wording.
Okay, go ahead, Member Mohammed.
Yeah, all I was going to suggest that you add in that requested, prior to the date, and make sure that you have that in there. So, people don't get wind of it and say, oh, I want it now.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So the initial motion. Just a minute. Slow down. The initial motion was to issue for watcher certificates that as requested by candidates. That was the initial motion. Amendment, Member Hendricks, I think you had one?
Yes, but you have to, yes, I said it must be a specific voting center. You can't just make it blanket and you just show up anywhere, anytime.
Okay, so your amendment is that the request has to note the vote center.
Right.
So that's your amendment?
I believe, excuse me, but I believe that's their choice. They get a certain number, and we're either granting that or we're not granting that. But if we want to talk about, we are already said we didn't want to include anything. I think I understand we didn't want to include anything, like Member Hendricks said. The size of the place is not our concern. We could say, you're entitled to one poll watcher. They're entitled to 3 total. One poll watcher at each. Aren't there 3? How many? 2 in St. Thomas and 1 in St. John. So one at each polling center, in each district.
I don't believe that the poll watcher certificate is interchangeable. When they apply for it, it is for a specific polling place. Currently, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Right, but they get to choose where they want to go. Do we assign them? Okay, that's all I'm saying.
No, they get to choose, but they can't interchange.
Right, exactly. But all I'm saying, it's not for us to say you've got to go to Tutu or you have to go to St. Joseph. Decide amongst the poll watchers that the number that they get, where they go. We don't tell them where to go. But only
Requesting the certificate, but also request the site.
They put it on the application. It goes on the application, Member Hendricks.
That's what I said. It also says the site.
Yeah, I think everybody is in agreement.
And the site.
I think everyone is in agreement. So I don't think we need that amendment because it's a given. Member Moorhead, you had another amendment by any chance?
No, I don't.
Okay, so
I had an amendment, Mr. Williams.
who's this? Member McIntosh?
Yes, Member McIntosh, I remember. So we talked about, and maybe I'm just trying to get help to formulate how we should be, that with reasonable accommodation, right? Because remember we said the space and all of that. So we need to add in the motion with reasonable accommodation.
Do you have a second on that motion?
Yeah, second.
Member Hendricks with reasonable accommodation. Okay, roll call on the amendment. Member Springer.
Wait,
I'm
but
sorry.
before that, wait.
Member Springer, go ahead.
You said with reasonable modifications, Ms. McIntosh?
Reasonable accommodation.
Accommodations, could you break that down a little bit? Because then somebody might go there and say, well,
I don't know that you want to go beyond that, Member Springer, because then we'll have to apply a million definitions to what accommodations mean.
Well, what
I
does
think
it
it's,
mean? What does the mover mean? We need to know what the mover means.
Okay,
Okay, so yes, Member Mohead, you're correct. So what I meant to say is, remember we were saying that there may be too many people in the polling places, and that we need to make sure we should ask the supervisor to have them come on a schedule as opposed to everybody being in there at one time. That's what I'm trying to say.
okay,
So
that's
maybe
what I
you
was
can-
saying to just break it and say that, yeah.
Okay, I hear you, but again, I thought we said there are only 3 people that asked for a poll watcher, so how is it gonna be too many? It doesn't matter, we're not doing it just for the 3, it's just period, because this is gonna go over to the general, and the next year, next two
Okay,
elections, that will make this decision, yes. Okay.
makes sense. Any further discussion?
Yes,
Go ahead, Member Joseph.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, that your letter include that the board will bring the matter before the legislature for refinement.
Okay, so you're speaking, okay, I got you, but that's not part of this motion. You can bring another motion because we're trying to dispose of
Thank
the,
you. I will then, when we're in general session.
we are in general, but I'm just saying that. we
Mr.
can bring-
Chairman, we are in a roll call.
Well, I'm just explaining, Member Bellardo, take it easy. Roll call on the amendment.
Chairman, just one moment. I'm the mover. Before you do that, make sure the word immediately is in front. I did say that and I didn't hear it when you said it just now. Immediately in front of issue, please.
Okay, immediately issue. Thank you.
Yes.
Roll call on the amendment.
Aye.
Member Bellardo.
Member Espinosa? Member Moorhead?
Sorry, I was absent for a few. What's going on?
Sorry.
Member Moorhead?
Okay.
Member Moorhead? I think you all need to start paying attention to
Not voting on the amendment.
Okay.
Member
No, I think, sorry, hold up. I think we already disposed of the amendment, correct?
No, we did not. She's doing a roll call.
Okay, all right.
Pay attention, man. Come on.
Lydia, you're not muted. Member Hendricks? Member McIntosh?
Yes.
Member Jones? Member Jones?
Not voting.
Member Joseph Epifani?
Yes.
Member Michael Joseph?
Present.
Excuse me?
Present.
No. Yes, no, or not voting?
Present. same effect.
No, Member Joseph, please, come on, man. It's either yea, nay, or abstain.
We are on a roll.
Disagree, but I will follow your mastery of the rules of Robert procedure and would say, though reluctantly abstain.
Thank you.
Member Leardon,
Yes.
Member Mercer. Member
Yes.
Mercer,
Yes, yes, yes.
Member Neal, yes. Member Springett,
Not voting.
Member Wellington absent. Member Wells,
Yes.
Member Williams,
Yes.
Member Williams, we have 9 yes, 1 abstain, and 3 not voting.
Thank you. Roll call on the motion as amended.
I need amended motion. May I say something in the meantime, Chairman Williams?
Nope, not during the roll call.
Member Espinosa? Espinosa?
Not voting.
Not voting?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sorry, we're
Member
doing something in the
Moy?
background.
Not voting.
Member Hendricks? Yes. Member McIntosh?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Little Harrison. I'm sorry, not voting.
Member Epiphany Joseph? Epiphany Joseph? Michael Joseph?
Not voting.
Member Belado, yes.
Member Leardon?
Yes.
Member Mercer?
Yes.
Member O'Neill? No. Member Springett?
Not voting.
Member Wellington, 1 absent. Alicia Wells?
Yes.
Member Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 7 yes, 1 no, 1 absent, and 5 not voting.
Thank you very much. The motion carries. Next order on the agenda, under item 5B, the 2020 general election discussion. I'm going to start this conversation. Earlier this week or last week, I can't remember the exact date, there was a meeting held with the police commissioner, his chiefs, and his the chiefs, the deputies, and the officers that are going to be in charge of election day security matters. Out of that meeting, the suggestion.
I need some extra,
Member Belado, mute your mic, please.
please, thank you.
So yeah, like I said, out of that discussion, we spoke about electioneering and the plan that we will be executing to ensure that we're going to meet with the candidates. I asked Mr. Mohammed to send out the invite to all the candidates and to the members. Those meetings will be held on November 3rd, I think, I don't say Gross Cinemas, and then on the next day in the other district. The police department will also be putting up drones to take pictures of the vote centers, where then they'll produce photographs highlighting the areas that electioneering is not allowed. I want to have a quick discussion on electioneering because, again, similar to some of the other concerns that were raised on other matters, we, based on the code, it speaks to the chairman determining the number of the distance from the poll. We've always pretty much, the consensus has always been 200 feet away from the perimeter of the vote center, in this case, the vote center. Let's discuss some realities. Number one, if a candidate sets up, let's use Arthur Richards as a prime example. No, let's use, Arthur Richards or CHS, whichever. If a candidate sets up their signage and whatever have you on the opposite side of the road, as long as they're not on the same side of the premises where the voting is taking place, I don't think we can restrict them. Even if it's using CHS as an example, the entrance to that vote center, if a candidate is across the street, I don't think that we can tell them they can't be there because they're within the 200 feet boundary. Conversely, if that candidate is set up across the street and they come across the street to electioneer, that is a violation. I know we've had situations in the primary where candidates were told, even though it's private property, you can't set up there. We cannot determine or dictate to anyone what they can do on their private property. I think our responsibility lies on the side where the premises are located, and they got to be 200 feet outside of the premises from whatever. If the premises at CHS is where the fence line ends, pretty much, as far I think closer towards the post office. So they would need to be beyond that if they were on the same side of the premise. Anybody has any further clarification on that?
Yes. Number one.
I'm sorry, Member Moorhead?
This issue is going to stay an issue until the legislature addresses the fact that their section should have said 200 feet from the...
Hold on. Go ahead, Lisa.
The statute should have been written to say 200 feet from where the voter gains access instead of the perimeter. They said when they first enacted it, they meant to say door, which would be where the voter has access. But they did not say that, and they have not changed it in 6 years. So it's not our prerogative to use a different assessment of whatever. And the private property has nothing to do with anything. Everybody gets dictated to by law what they can do with private property. You have to pay taxes, you can't cut down trees, there are many requirements that go along with private property. The issue is only, that you'd be, and what happened at Arthur Richards was they were within 160 feet of the door, not the perimeter. And that's from, even though they were across the street, they were still, when I walked it, only 160 feet from the door. Nobody was trying to put them in Safarelli, which is where they would be if you talk about the perimeter, because the fence line takes up that whole property. But until they choose to change it, it's not for us to reinterpret the law or add wording to the law. There's nothing in the law about private property. So again, you know, I would think that we would use our discretion and be fair, but let's not try to bend it, which is what you said just did.
All I'm gonna say to your comment is that you can never show me in any law that tells me that I can restrict someone on the use of their private property. If the property falls that close, 10 feet away from the entrance or the perimeter of the polling and voting center, if I am on my private property, I dare anybody to challenge me and tell me I cannot electioneer on my private property.
You can have a poster up on your private property because you're expressing your desire to vote. The reason that you have things against electioneering is so people are not intimidated. It has nothing to do with who wins or doesn't win or what party you're on. It's a consistent thing. Like I said, all they have to do is make the law say what they wanted it to say, which it does not. And so what you're suggesting is that if there was a house right next to Arthur Richards, somebody could be out there electioneering, which defeats the whole, that's BS.
Well, that's your opinion.
Yeah, ask the AG. Instead of us interpreting it, why don't we ask the AG when we have an attorney? Ask the AG and let's stop the debate. Get an opinion from the AG so there's no arguments on election day.
Hello, we need to continue with our meeting. There's an emergency alert.
We're continuing. We're continuing.
The meeting.
We're continuing. So I'm going to look up in the code because I don't agree with what Member Mohammed is saying. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure we have consistency so that we're not telling people different things. And again, I'll look it up when I find the statute that speaks to electioneering.
Motion.
I'll share it. Motion.
I move that we ask the AG for an opinion as to what the statute says.
Second.
Moved and second. Any objections? Hearing none, so ordered.
Second the motion, I went and hold for some reason.
The motion has already been discussed.
Okay, I think somebody did it.
I think I mentioned already under 5B2, the candidates meeting. Again, the purpose of the meeting is to speak to the responsibilities of poll watchers. Somebody needs to mute their mic, please. The responsibility of poll watchers, the do's and don'ts inside and outside of the voting center, and to answer questions if any of the candidates have, so that we can ensure that they understand what their responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, etc. Is there anything else anyone thinks that we may need to discuss in that meeting?
Mr. Chairman, is there a motion on the floor?
The motion has been dispensed of.
Which, to ask the AG to
Yes.
issue opinion?
Yes. It's been dispensed of. Member McIntosh.
Mr. Chair, I just sent an email back when I got the notification of the November 3rd meeting. I know we have a little handbook, and I'm suggesting, because it cannot be done in this forum, that we meet sometime either later this week or before the 3rd and go through it together as a group to make sure that we are consistent. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay, great idea. I like that idea. Thank you. So the next item.
I'm sorry, can I please get a clarification? Question with respect to Ms. McIntosh's suggestion, which I have no problem with. But are you saying that we need to meet in person in each district and talk about it, or meet again by teams as one board?
Yeah, I'll call a teams meeting. I'll call a teams meeting.
I think,
I'll call a teams meeting.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Sure.
Can we please make sure that one gets the copy of this document ahead of time for review instead of waiting until come to the meeting to read? Thanks.
Can you said you made a copy available?
No, I said I'm asking if you can please make a copy available. I know Mr. Alexandre has the copy, but make it available to everyone, please.
Mr. Mohammed, can you get that poll watchers handbook? You said poll watchers or which about it?
Poll watchers guide.
Okay, so Mr. Mohammed, can you make sure that a copy of the poll watchers manual is circulated to the members before we have that discussion, please? Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the status of ES&S tabulation software and equipment. I know the supervisor sent us an update. What this speaks to is that on election night, unlike what the experience we had at the primary, where it took forever to upload, then download, then post the Canvas results on our website, we've purchased equipment that would allow the technicians to post the information, upload the information from the thumb drives onto the, I forget the name of the machine that tabulates the votes. And then once all of the precincts within each vote center, by vote center, let me clarify that, are uploaded, are tabulated, then that information will be uploaded to the website, so for immediate dissemination. So more than likely, I think what the process would look like is that we'll start to close the polls on the early vote DS100s, run the tape. As soon as we complete running the tape, at that point, the thumb drives will be turned over to the technicians so that the tabulation can occur. And then as soon as they're done with all the early voting thumb drives and everything is tabulated, that information will immediately be uploaded to the website. And at that point, that information will have been made public. Same thing as we always do, as the judge for the poll, for the vote center, arrives at the election office in each district, first come, first serve. And we'll just continue to take each judge until we've dispensed of all the judges. And like I said, we'll do early voting first. Then whoever is in the office gets to the office first. We'll upload that information to the tabulator. They'll be tabulated and then uploaded so that hopefully all goes well. Let's keep our fingers crossed that the judges get there safely and we don't have any issues with reading any of the thumb drives. If we do that, then we're in a wonderful place. Member McIntosh.
Okay. So I know you said it briefly in the beginning, Mr. Chair, but just to clarify, and I know the public will be listening, that we did purchase this machine to ensure, software to ensure.
Okay, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Member McIntosh.
I'm so sorry. I'm just saying, I saw Ms. Fox has her hand raised. Maybe she's probably going to clarify what I'm about to say, I hope. But I'm saying, I know you said earlier that we purchased a piece of software, but I just want you to clarify the purpose of the software. I know we did it because of the issue of the slow process of counting, because it became a semi-manual process.
Anyway, one love. Thanks for
Thank you. Supervisor Fox.
Yes, I had run to the restroom. So yes, we did receive the equipment. It's a server with it's in fact two pieces of equipment, and the server is on St. Croix and one is on St. Thomas. I will look at the one that was installed here that just got over here today. We tested it on the 18th. ESNS was here. We tested it with some test data and it worked. What it is the uploading of the jump drives to the cloud and downloading the process. It was coming manually through a different way, but now this with the server, you got a ping and then it comes straight to the St. Croix office. So she can pull St. Croix, St. Thomas alternately as they come in and makes the process a lot easier once they're labeled and identified.
Yeah, thank you so very much for the clarification. So, like I said, we're hoping to make sure that we have a smooth process. I want to reiterate, we will not be printing any results until all the results are in and completed. We're not doing this partial print some here, not print some. No, we're not doing that. It creates too much confusion. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, we just want to make sure that we get all the information read, uploaded, and out to the reading public. Any other questions or concerns on that matter? Hearing none. The vote center review. Again, Ms. Fox, for the public record, correct me if I'm wrong, the vote centers on St. John are at
So I said in Calabash Boom, starting the East Calabash Boom and Julius Pearl Elementary School, 2 sites, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. St. Thomas, we start from the east, we return to our home, Eudora Ivana Ken Cafeteria. Then we come down to Tutu Park Mall, the same area that we're using for early voting, the old Scotia Bank. Then we come to Charlotte Amalia High School Gymnasium and the University of the Virgin Islands Sports and Fitness Center. We go over to St. Croix, we start in the west, Arthur Richards Junior High School Cafeteria, Educational Complex Gymnasium, Central High School Gymnasium, St. Dunstan's School, and the Canigata Recreational Center.
Thank you. Any questions, any member? Hearing none. Item 5B5, election night canvassing, unified strategy plan. We just discussed that. The plan is to, like I said, as a judge from a vote center come in, we take them as they come in. Hopefully we can get all the information up, like Supervisor Fox said, get it into the cloud, get it downloaded, get it tabulated, and then upload it to the website. So that is the strategy. That is the plan. So we won't be doing anything outside of that. Next thing, relative to canvassing of ballots, I think we'd already made a decision in a prior meeting that we're going to canvass ballots on election night for everything from early voting up to whatever we have on election day. We will reconvene thereafter, and I'm seeking input here again. I'm just going based on what we did in the primary. We had reconvened, I believe, a few days after that to start the absentee ballot counting. I'm pulling up the calendar. So November 8th is election.
We already decided on a previous. Pick a date already.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I was asking. I didn't remember. What was the date?
The 10th, 2 days after, because then we're followed with a holiday. Remember that whole discussion?
Okay. So we're going to be canvassing absentee ballots on the 10th. And then on the 18th, we will be finalizing any outstanding ballots. That's correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Yes, I think, yeah. So the 18th, we'll finalize any outstanding. So because the law requires 10 days to certify.
Right. What time will we be starting on the 10th, sir?
Lisa, you remember? Did we set a time?
2 p.m.
2 p.m.?
I don't remember a time.
Yeah, Terrell said 2 p.m.
If that was the, yeah.
Terrell said 2 p.m.
Was saying 2, then 2, but, you know.
Terrell said 2 p.m.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so we'll continue the canvas.
Chairman Williams?
Yes, sir.
And just to clarify, the 8th and the 18th was 5 p.m.
Okay, so on the 18th, 5 p.m. And then we will hopefully be able to sign off on the certification sheets shortly thereafter. Member Mercer.
What about a
Yes,
runoff?
sir.
Member Mercer.
Oh, okay. And the canvas, because we keep on oscillating with this issue back and forth. For those of us on the ballot, to what extent do we actually sit there at that board table?
Very simply, Jesus Christ. It's an unwritten rule that members who are on the ballot generally don't physically participate, but you can generally observe. I can't tell a member they can't do something because it's a sworn responsibility.
You can't touch anything.
Right,
Can I
That's why we're going back and forth.
Hello?
So what we've done in the past, for at least the past 14 years, is that whoever's on the ballot can observe, as the chairman said, but you cannot touch anything. That's the physical aspect of it. Like when we had a recount, nobody who was on the ballot was able to recount or touch anything. You can't touch the jump drives and pass it from one person to the next. You can be in the room, but you cannot touch anything that has anything to do with voting on that night.
So my question is, for the purpose of the public, should then those board members like myself just sit in the audience and not even at the board table? Is that necessary?
No.
That's not necessary.
No.
Okay. Just want to verify. Okay.
No. Because it is a responsibility, your sole responsibility, to canvass the results of the election. That it's just been our general rule that we stay hands up to not have an air of some impropriety. Any other questions?
Well, let me just.
What about, I have my hand raised.
Go ahead, Member Wells.
What about the runoff that's supposedly scheduled for the 22nd? Are we planning for that?
What is the planning like? What in terms of?
What are we going to do? How are we going to handle that if we should have a runoff? Are we going to discuss that after?
We've handled every other runoff.
I'm waiting to hear.
Member Moorhead.
Well, all the time.
Please. It's a fair question. Member Moorhead, please. So yes, to your question, Member Wells, whatever, if Supervisor Fox help me out if I'm incorrect, but if there's going to be a runoff election, it'll be the 8th, we certify on the 18th. I think you'll do early voting for like 2 or 3 days, and then the runoff election will be on the 22nd of November. Is that correct, Supervisor Fox?
That is correct.
And all the powers.
When you finish, I got a recommendation.
Okay. Member Jones.
Please make sure you guys bring some party bags, party hats, and cakes and treats. That's my birthday, the 22nd. I'm going to be with you guys on that date. Thank you.
Well, you'll be celebrating your...
Could I give a point of work? Could I give a point? I recommend again. Chairman, I'm recommending we do 3 days of counting. I brought that up before. I think waiting to the 18th, again, I'm just recommending 3 days because you got a middle so you could capture what's in there so you know what's going on at the end. We can perform a runoff because we know what it requires. So we got the template, we'll just go from there. So it's not a hard thing to do. Like Ms. Moher said, we've done it twice, and 3 times is a charm. But the issue is it's better to get where you at. The first time, you're not going to get all the ballots in. St. Thomas got over 500 ballots out. St. Croix got over 300 ballots out. Some persons called us up to yesterday, said that they didn't receive their ballot. So we have to reset it. So I'm saying again, we should do a middle day before the 18th. You don't have to decide it today. You could decide it when you come, but we need to do 3 days.
I don't agree with that, simply because if we come back on the 10th, which is 2 days after the election, whatever is there, we'll dispose of it. I don't see any, other than, the only thing I can think that in concurrence with your thoughts is that if we were to come maybe on the 17th, excuse me,
Mr. Chairman, let the board talk.
Mr. Member Joseph, all of us cannot speak at the same time. I'm not refusing anyone from talking.
This is why I've had my hand up.
Right, exactly.
I've been talking all along.
Okay, guys are getting out of order here, please. Let's contain ourselves. Let's contain ourselves. I was just trying to say that, based on Supervisor Fox's recommendation, if the consensus is to do one day earlier, and then we can certify on the 18th, because on the 18th we still have to wait to see if there's anything outstanding coming in on the 18th. That's why I'm saying, why come in 3 days and we could dispose of everything that's left? There shouldn't be a whole lot of ballots left to be counted on the 18th. Member Moorhead?
I agree with Supervisor Fox, and I believe it was the practice before that we did 3 days. But the other thing that I wanted
Excuse me.
Can I
I'm going to
finish?
say for the last time, only one person can speak. Member Moorhead.
Okay, all I was saying is I agree with Supervisor Fox because I believe it has been the practice that we do 3 days, as she's suggesting, somewhere in the middle. Usually what happens the last day is you get 1 or 2 if you get that. Terrell makes, or whoever at that point, maybe Mr. Bahamut, and whoever in St. Thomas makes a run because you have to wait till 5 o'clock that day to pick up whatever's there in the box. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 or nothing, but in the middle you would catch a lot more. If you wait till next to the last day, you might as well just wait till the last day. But can I say something? I was trying to and had my hand up before with respect to Member Mercer's previous question. The other thing that a board member can do who is on the ballot is correct something that's going wrong in the counting. They can point out, not by yelling, you're doing something wrong, but just saying, did you note that, or you dropped this, or something like that. Again, without getting physically involved like we did when we had the runoff. We had people who were on the ballot sitting there, saying, if the person who was counting overcounted or undercounted, they would say, I think it was an error, and then you could go right back. But in any other capacity, just assisting in the sense that they're overseeing so they can point out things. Again, not to shame somebody, but say, did you miss that, or something of that order. Thank you.
Member Hendricks?
I totally agree with the fact that we should, at least after November 10th, at 2 p.m. when we count, we will have a general idea as to what is happening. You can't just say, let's wait until the 18th, because maybe on the 10th, we may only be able to count 200 ballots. And if we had 400, we still have another 200 that we have not disposed of. So I think that we could make these decisions as they occur.
I'm good with it, I need to appreciate something. I'm not dictating anything here. I'm just like every other member. I'm putting my thoughts on the table. So yeah, I totally agree that if with your analogy that if on the 10th you will need it 2, I got 4, yeah, at that point you said maybe we need to come back the next day or 2 days after.
And let me make it even more specific. On St. Thomas, 4 of our board members are on the ballot. So who's going to be counting all of these ballots? Just Ms. Wells, Ms. Hendricks, and maybe one other person. Mr. Watlington, if he shows up.
Sure.
So could I say one other point, Chairman?
Go ahead.
In addition, when you do it for the last day, you put too much pressure on getting the certification report done, and they make errors and they make mistakes. That's another thing we learned from the primary. So I'm just saying, keep this in consideration. We have done it before, 3 days. We have done more days and we reduced to 3. But I'm saying the 15th is not going to kill it. The 15th is 3 days before the 18th, and it's 5 days after the 10th. So you have some time. So that's the last I say on that.
Thank you. But we'll make that determination on the 10th.
Suggestion.
suggestion, please?
Member Moore?
Can't we just schedule a date so people will have that scheduled, and if we don't need it, throw it out, as
Yes.
opposed to waiting, because, I may have something else scheduled at that point, and I'm not on the ballot, so I would be somebody you're relying on. So if we don't need it, if we see on the 10th that we've counted 400 ballots, then we don't need the middle day. But if we see that like somebody else suggested, we've only counted half, maybe we do need the middle day. But let's at least have a date in mind,
Okay,
please.
okay. You want to proffer a date then?
And I'll go along with the 15th as been suggested and throw it out, like I said, if we feel we don't need it. And that would be a decision we could make that on the spot.
Okay, all right. Member Mercer?
Okay, yes, I just want to correct that record. As far as I see, it's 3 of us, Member Hendricks, on the ballot, not 4. All right, myself, Shakima, and Tanya. And I wanted to ask through you, the chairman, to Ms. Fox. I wanted to ask because she mentioned something I'm concerned about. I know we had a discussion on it before, and maybe it's not something to be concerned about. So let me see. She said that there are people still calling now for absentee ballots that didn't receive them yet, and she may send another one out to them. I think we had a discussion on that, and I'm concerned because I'm thinking, what if they do receive the one that they said they didn't receive yet? Shouldn't they just be allowed to do the waive their privacy and do a waive just the other kind of way that we do it, which we get the ballot, they do it by facsimile and then waive their privacy? Shouldn't they wait till the last minute instead of us sending out a second ballot to that person?
Supervisor Fox?
So no matter if you send 1 or 2, when the ballots come back, the board check them and only one will count. We have to do what the voter requests. Some of these voters do not want to waive their rights. Again, sometimes it's error on their part or the post office by missing a digit. Sometimes they give us fill out this paper and we don't understand a digit. So if they ask for a ballot, a return, we have to send a ballot. They're not asking to waive the right. So it will work out because only one will come. The board checks the list. And once they vote once and they tag, they can't vote again.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
So then, Chairman, hold on a second. That brings me to the concern of a caller to generation.
Member Mercer.
Wait, it's in line.
Mercer, I am recognizing Member Michael
Okay,
Joseph.
I'll come back again.
Member Michael
Thank
Joseph.
you, Mr. Chairman. Member Moorhead and the supervisor seems to make sense to me. I saw that we could get a product out of it. Would it be too late to say that the supervisor will put in writing what she just said, send it to you, and if there's no objection, you just you have my approval to sign my name to it. And in other words, it's my intention that the supervisor knows best. In other words, you and her seems to have attention, and our member Moorhead seems to agree with the supervisor. Rather than we go take another vote, why don't we just leave it up to the supervisor?
No, we cannot do that. The supervisor doesn't run the election. The board does. I think we have a consensus. I think we already have a consensus.
Are we getting
So
a consensus?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Member Mercer?
Yeah, I was just saying that in light of this thing about, we know the 14th was the last day. No, not the 14th. The 11th was the last day to accept, to mail out ballots. But if a person says, look, I don't care about that, something happened and I couldn't get to because remember, we put in the 11th as far as a deadline because we wanted to make sure that it come back. It has time to come back by the 8th, for them to fill out and come back. But if they said, look, I don't care about the deadline, I don't care, just send it to me anyway, I'll take the chance with it getting back in time. What's the big deal with that?
I don't think there is a big deal. All the supervisor clarified to you was your question. You asked if they got 2 ballots and then they're back 2 ballots. How is that treated? She explained that.
That was a different situation. I'm talking about when they didn't get...
And I'm saying to you, and I'm answering your second question, if someone wants to waive their right, they have that opportunity as well.
Yeah, but that wasn't my question.
Okay,
That
what's your
wasn't their
question?
question. They,
What is
they
it?
missed the opportunity to request a mail-in ballot, mail out, if you will, mail out ballot. They missed that opportunity at October 11th. They're saying now, I don't care that I missed that opportunity. Send me one anyway because I want to vote. Send me one anyway, and I'll take the chance to see if it comes in time. You don't tell me if it comes in time. What is the problem with that?
I'm going to give to the supervisor to answer that.
Okay.
So we have to work with policies and procedures. Again, we go to other agencies and we follow the rules. Again, it's not for the ballot to come back in time. It's for the postal service to get it out in a timely manner. And they vote by the deadline and they return it. So we're responsible to mail out the ballots. Again, if persons take it upon themselves and they mail it out, then they can't blame us if it doesn't get back in time. So that's why we have a cutoff date. There are exceptions. There are emergencies, and we try to work with voters because we want everyone to exercise their right. So we deal with exceptions, but we can't make it the norm because if you say it's open and you don't have a deadline, then we end up in issues. So that's why we have a deadline.
Thank you. Member McIntosh? Member McIntosh?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So Ms. Fox clarified basically what I was going to ask. So much so that here we go again. If the deadline is the deadline, and I totally agree.
Sorry, Member McIntosh, that's my fault. I apologize.
Oh, I believe that the voter, I said the deadline is a deadline, and I totally agree with the deadline. Because, they're going to blame us, right? If they don't get in time, even though they say it's okay, they're going to turn around and blame us. However, if the voter chooses to pick up the ballot and do whatever they wish to do with it, mail it out or whatever, because I have a situation where another gentleman is telling me he's not going back to the office. Even after I spoke to Ms. Fox and I told him it was okay, I told him to go to Ms. Fox, he said it was frustrated and he's not coming back. His wife went to the States and she got stuck. She realized that she would not make it back. It was after the 11th. As a matter of fact, he was the one who told me that. I know it's after the 11th. What can I do? So I told him, go get it and send it yourself, which they had planned to do like an express thing between them, right? And the office told them that they couldn't get the ballot. Again, we need to get out of the way. Our responsibility is to make it 100% easy for people to vote. Because it's not written down someplace or because it's not, if it's not illegal, we have to learn to go the extra mile. I would have thought that, I don't know who the gentleman spoke to or the staff person spoke to, they spoke to a supervisor, but I would have thought that they would have spoken to a supervisor. And if that's the norm that's happening in the office, again, I suggest, Ms. Fox, that it be addressed and let them know if the person wants to pick up the ballot, that's on them. The record will reflect that they picked it up, not that we mailed it out.
Thank you. Deputy Douglas? Deputy Douglas?
Unmute yourself.
Good day, can you hear me? Yes, good day. Sorry about that. I'm driving. I just wanted to add, unless something has changed that I'm not aware of, we send absentee ballots out based on a permit, the Postal Service policies, and you must mail a certain amount to use that permit. Absentee ballots are mailed under special conditions and handled in a specific way. And so we can't go to the post office with 1 or 2 ballots that are absentee to mail under that permit. I just wanted to state that.
Thank you. Member Michael Joseph?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to add to that, but before we close the meeting, I'd just like to apologize if I misspoke. I will never go to the public unless I have the consensus of this board. I would ask, though, in the future you send a draft of the agenda, because I didn't even see the agenda before. Otherwise, I would have given you a call and asked you to consider what I wanted to say. So
The the agenda was circulated, member
Yes,
Joseph.
yes.
Yeah, it was
I didn't see
circulated.
it. I didn't see it.
Okay. In the future,
Yeah.
take the responsibility if you didn't see it and call and ask.
Beg your pardon, I don't control the electronics.
Member Leader.
Question, if there is a runoff, what happens with absentee ballots?
Supervisor Fox, good question.
So again, we have done this, like I said, it's going to be my third time. So that's what we did. Right now, everybody check off on the application, they want our ballots. Based on the timeline, we mail out as much as we can. The others, we request that they ask for an email ballot. So we email them the ballot. They have a choice of returning it via mail, via email, waiving their rights, etc., or fax. So we, like I said, we have done this two times already. So we spin it up and get it out. And that's what we say we do early voting for like 2 or 3 days. So we try to do all the processes. They all have to be done, but absentee, we have the ability to email. That's what we put in our law. Facsimile, either way, fax, email, whatever. And right now, the military gets email ballots, so we've been doing email from 2014.
Thank you.
So question, I still have a question. So if someone voted regular without requesting an absentee ballot, but is going to be off island for the runoff, how do they deal with that?
Well, on the calendar, it tells you when we open again for absentee application. And so they do an application for that. So again, if you look at the calendar now, I don't have one in front of me, but that date should already be on there. And that's the date that they apply for it. But like I said, we try to encourage all, when they apply for the application the first time from the primary, check all elections so they make sure they cover and less papers for us to receive also. So we work on that.
Okay, so what I'd like to line up questioning member later. Maybe just out of an ounce of caution and rows of whatever the other word is, maybe we need to put that in a release so that people will know in advance. Okay, Supervisor?
Okay, yeah, I got that.
Thank you.
I have one thing to clarify when you finish this topic.
Go ahead.
So I didn't tell you, I was rushed for time on the question. So we go back to the question, what happened at Tutu Park Mall? So folks don't think that the judge did something out of the ordinary. With the blue bins in the back, if the bins get full, we have to cut the seal to take out a bin and replace a bin. So it's not the jump drive that the seal was broken. So again, the blue bin, the ballot back in the bottom is what was, and it's written in the judge's book. Every seal they take off, every seal they put back. But when the bins get full, we have to pull them out and change the bins. So that's the process. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So is there any other burning questions? Our meeting time is about to run out, so are there any other burning questions or comments, concerns? Member Latham, I really appreciated that in line of questioning that. I'm going to send out a meeting call for a working session so that we can talk about the poll watchers stuff in a few days, okay? Member Fox, Supervisor Fox?
I was saying that, I thought you was talking about, but I think you should have a session, especially for new board members, so they could go through some of these processes. Like I said, the line of question was good, but folks don't know what we do in the office to get ready for the election. And so maybe one day we'll do a walking session, maybe after this is done, so they could understand the steps that go through from one segment to the other. Because all the questions you asked about a runoff, how it happened so fast in 14 days and what we have to do. But so we have to have that conversation with all the board members to get them to the education. Thank you.
I would agree. Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, so fine. We'll definitely make that happen. No other business being before the Board of Elections today, October 26, 2022. I accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Moved by member Michael Joseph. Second by member Moorhead. Any objections? Hearing none, this meeting stands adjourned, and the time is 4:38. Thank you guys very much. Please be safe on the roads. There's a lot of rain falling. So you don't need to go out. Don't go out. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
You know what I say? Come from Grove.
I didn't say nothing. I said about the Grove thing.
Okay.
Bye.
Hmm.